we do?
Hey everyone, I'm gonna hand the camera to Drew.
Oh, wait, is that on?
Yeah.
It's a video.
Oh.
It's a video. Whoa, hey. It's a rough start.
Good morning, guys.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. It is my birthday. So I'm going to talk to you guys today about welfare reform, and I'm going to start with some staggering statistics. As of July 26, 2012, there were 15 million people on welfare, and that number does not include people who are part of food stamps programs, WIC programs, or Medicaid. There are 40 states in the United States, where welfare pays more than an $8 an hour job. There are 9 states in which welfare pays more than a $12 an hour job, and there are also 9 states where welfare pays more than a U.S. teacher's starting salary. Now, I know you guys are tax-paying citizens just like me, and you're thinking to yourselves, this is crazy. Some things have to change, and we can't keep going this way. And we cannot afford to keep spending our hard-earned tax dollars into a system that is clearly broken. We have way too many able-bodied people just sitting around collecting a check. I want you to stand behind me and make the needed changes that we need in order to reform welfare. And I think that's with an administration that wants to affect change. Real change. I'm going to show how welfare was originally started and what it was intended to do, and what it has become. The abuse of the program and the dependency that has become and what is created is detrimental to those of us paying and for those of us that are receiving welfare. The welfare program today is nothing like it was when it started in 1935. The program was actually intended for widows of minor children and for widows with minor children. And it was a relatively small program. Then in the mid-60s, President Johnson began his war on poverty, and the program grew dramatically. This is when the government added 3 new programs to help the poor. You know them today as Medicaid, which is a program that helps people with medical care, food stamps, which is a program for free food, and a program called Supplemental Security Income, better known as SSI, which gives income to people who have disabled children or who are disabled themselves. Statistics collected from a U.S. Census survey of income and program participation, along with recent figures from the Census Bureau, showed that 107 million people are now receiving some form of welfare. Researchers now claim that spending on the food stamps program has reached over $800 billion. And in the next 10 years, the downturn in the economy and the high employment rate, this has meant that the programs have increased costs exponentially. And in the last 2 years, Medicaid has increased 36%, which is equal to $273 billion. And the food stamps program has increased to 80%, which is $70 billion. And while the economy has played a big part in the decline in welfare, lack of parental responsibility also comes into play. We have a society where fathers feel that they're no longer responsible for caring for families and they just abandon them. The government is losing in the battle with what we call deadbeat dads, and dads that don't live up to the financial obligations. And in the mid-1990s, government realized that the nanny state was out of control and in need of reform. We had created a generation after generation of families dependent on welfare. People lost the compunction to be self-sufficient and the motivation to support themselves. As a society, we are hurting ourselves by allowing this to continue. The solution to this problem is that we need to reform welfare. On July 25th, 1996, President Bill Clinton signed a Temporary Assistance for Needy Families Act, or they called it the TANF bill. This bill brought about some much-needed requirements that had to be met in order to receive the help. There were work requirements, family cap limits, requirements for teen mothers, and that said that they needed to remain in school, and limits on how long you could receive benefits, and many more. The goal was to stop dependency and create a self-sufficient citizen. We also need to look at other areas that can help with the financial burden and not just the federal government and taxpayers. Private foundations, charities, and religious organizations need to be doing more. And we need to cut taxes because statistics say that when people of a higher class don't have to pay as much taxes, they're more charitable. So President George Bush characterized this as a replacing of insufficient, bloated governmental support with 1,000 points of light. Instead of welfare, we need to have workfare, meaning that in order to collect, you must do something to earn your benefits. Either some sort of labor or job training. This is a way to get people ready for the workforce. And if they were required to do labor, they just might end up entering into a real job market. The 1996 TANF bill was working towards this, and in 2003 a study of single mothers concluded that welfare reform was responsible for more than a 40% increase in work participation. Another study showed that in 12 years following the introduction of the bill, caseloads fell from 12.3 million recipients to 3.7 million, and the official poverty rate fell in 1 decade by more than 10%. We also need to have people start to accept personal responsibility for themselves. If they want to become financially stable, they must do what they must to take and try to reach that goal. We'll help by giving you a check, but we're not going to. We're going to expect certain things, and you need to do those in return for it. So there are two different ways that this is going to end. One is by reform of the entire system, or two, by our country moving from a democracy to a form of socialism. By enacting reform now, we can turn this around, begin to reduce the debt, and ease the burdens on the taxpayers. We will encourage and raise up self-sufficient, self-sustaining generation with marketable skills and skills that can be used into the workplace. If we do not make the necessary changes, then we will continue to cultivate a hedonistic outlook that permeates our society today. We will continue to encourage illegal immigration because we know the government here will take care of them, and they just continue to abuse the system by coming into the country and not working. In other countries, socialism has proven to be a disaster, and it will be the same here. The old saying, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions," is applied in this situation very well. So now you know where welfare originally started and what it was intended to do and what it has become. You have seen the abuse of the program and the dependency that it has been created and how it's been detrimental to society. You see that there are solutions to fix the problem, but we need strong leaders and elected officials willing to step up to tackle the problem. We all need to be aware of what is going to happen, what is happening, and what is going to happen, and if we do not make the necessary changes, we're heading down to a socialistic form of government. Welfare creates a dependency on the system and a lack of responsibility, fraud, and just plain laziness. Why work if you can just sit at home and collect a check? And the program is desperate in need for change or reform, and changes must be made now, and they need to be made now. So that's all. Thank you.